The breakdown. SEC versus the Big Ten. Today is Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. JJ,
June 8th, 2023.
what did I say?
June 28th.
I'm sorry, June 8th, 2023. JJ,
Yes, sir.
let's talk a little SEC, Big Ten, and even some Big 12 happenings in the world of college sports. But before we get there, how you like my attire?
Looking sharp.
In honor of my father. His birthday is a couple of days away, June 11th, but I'm dressing up like my dad. This was his daily attire. If it's good enough for him, JJ, it's good enough for me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, back to Big Ten. They released their 2024 and 25 football schedule today. No more divisions.
No more divisions.
In 2024. There will be divisions this year, but 2024, no divisions. Anything from that schedule stuck out for you?
Yeah, there was a lot of things that stuck out to me. Where was the Michigan-Ohio State going to be played? It's going to be Ohio State game going to be played.
Okay.
And that's going to be in the Horseshoe. But also, where are the newcomers? I mean, that was what really stuck out to me. What USC and UCLA were going to
Exactly.
And USC gets to host Michigan. I mean, that's something that's pretty cool for them. But they avoid having to play Ohio State.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I noticed that. What did you notice?
I noticed Michigan didn't play Penn State.
Yeah. That's no longer one of the protected rivalries.
That's right.
Michigan is protecting 11 rivalries that will be played, or not Michigan. The
Ten.
Big Ten is protecting 11 rivalries that will be played every year, and Penn State, Michigan is no longer one of them.
Okay. Interesting. Nine game conference schedule. How you like it?
I like it. Some conferences are only playing eight games, but we'll get to that later. I like it though.
Okay.
What do you think about the schedule?
I like the 9. I like this a lot. I like Michigan State's. They got protected. They're protected with the Michigan game. I like that. The schedule for 2024 doesn't change very much at all for Michigan. They do not play neither of the newcomers from the West Coast. For Michigan State, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Let me make sure I get it straight.
Oh, okay.
Michigan State do not play. They do not play UCLA nor USC.
Yeah.
So their schedule for 2024 isn't that much of a change.
Yeah. I mean, that could happen this year or next year.
But in 2025, they will play both of the West Coast teams.
You got to.
Another game that kind of stuck out for me, Rutgers and UCLA.
Of course.
UCLA has to go to Rutgers.
Yeah, that's a conference game now. Rutgers and UCLA. When you think Big Ten, what else do you think about Rutgers and UCLA?
How long would
LA and New York.
How long will it take UCLA to fly from LA to New Jersey?
I mean, that's coast to coast. I don't know. This is the new reality.
That is the new reality. It's interesting. It's going to make, on paper it's one thing. When they actually start playing these games, I think it's going to be even more exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting. Well, will there be a power shift, JJ, once UCLA and USC are added to the...
Absolutely. When you bring in a program like USC, that's a program you have to account for. That absolutely shifts the power. They, I don't believe, are at the same level as Ohio State, but I think they're at a level just underneath that, along with Michigan and Penn State. I think they're right in that league. So I think when you bring in a team like that in football, USC, and in basketball and UCLA, well, and actually in basketball, USC too, because they're gonna have Bronny James and the number 1 overall recruit in basketball as well. So maybe you have to account for USC in basketball as well. But when you bring in those type of schools, you have to account for them. So there will be a power shift. Just by USC will fall in line. But I also think there might be a power shift, and this might be advantageous to Nebraska because they are the third furthest west program now
in the Big Ten.
And now that you have a couple of West Coast anchors in USC and UCLA, if a guy doesn't want to go to USC or UCLA, or they're not getting recruited by USC or UCLA, Nebraska can fly in and say, hey, if you want to play against those teams, get some revenge, we are the closest flight to, we are the next closest thing to actually being on the West Coast. And that's what they did with Texas when they were so strong in the Big 8 and then, into the Big 12, they recruited Texas.
I know, big time.
Nebraska can't just recruit the state of Nebraska. They need to have strong recruiting ground. And I think
So they can get some of the leftovers from California.
they might be able to.
Okay.
Until, Oregon or Washington or whatever other West Coast programs join the, whatever the Big Ten becomes, Nebraska has opportunity to take advantage of being the next best thing to being like a West Coast team.
Okay.
If you and you still can, say that you're going to, play in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. You're going to play against UCLA. You're going to play, at Trojan State.
You still get to play those Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
Okay. Something that stuck out to me, JJ, the fact that USC is picking up Michigan and Penn State in 2024. And they also have Notre Dame on their schedule.
Yeah.
Because that's an annual schedule. I know because the games are not protected, will USC develop another rivalry with a Big Ten team other than UCLA?
Yeah, that's what I kind of was hoping when it comes to the protected rivalries. Those were announced.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly who USC's.
Their only protected rivalry is UCLA, and UCLA's only protected rivalry is USC. So therefore, it'll be hard for them to develop a different rival other than the ones that are already there.
Well, they released the three. They did release the 11 protected rivalries, but they also today released the annual 3 people that you have to play every year.
Okay.
So for instance, Ohio State has to play Illinois, Northwestern, and Michigan every single year.
Well, that's the protected rivalry.
But so USC was granted 2 other teams besides just UCLA.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure of that. I just don't remember what those teams were. Because we're using my phone to record it, I can't access those teams. But I'm 100% sure that they were giving 2 other teams. I just can't remember what they were.
Okay, we'll discuss that on our next one.
Yes, we will. Yeah, we should do that.
That makes it interesting. If they are, I don't know. Given that, like as I said, USC already has Notre Dame on their schedule, and they're picking up Michigan and Penn State, plus UCLA.
I think Penn State USC is a protected rivalry. So I'm 99.9% sure that USC Penn State is a protected rivalry. So that will be a rivalry that going forward USC and Penn State will have.
We will correct it in the footnote. Okay.
Yeah. I remember USC did not get Michigan State because I wanted to, the Trojan versus Spartan War just as a history major.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted that to happen. I remember that did not manifest itself. But I did remember Penn State did no longer would play Michigan every year, but they would play USC every single year. So Penn State and USC I think that will be a pretty good rivalry. Okay. Do you remember the last time they matched up in the Rose Bowl?
With
Sam Darnold,
high scoring affair,
52-49.
Yeah.
That was Trace McSorley versus Sam Darnold. That was a pretty good one.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But we will put in the comment section whether or not that is actually happening, because for I'm remembering what another one was. Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's the other one that plays USC every year. Wisconsin either plays USC every year or they play UCLA. I think it was USC. I think Wisconsin plays USC every year. Now that one I'm not as I don't know. That doesn't do as much for me. I think you could have replaced Wisconsin with a Michigan State personally. But I think USC gets UCLA, Penn State, and Wisconsin. I think that's a pretty strong. Michigan State only got one protected rivalry.
No, they got 2. They got 2 others as well. It was Michigan State got Michigan. I can't remember what the other 2 were, but everyone got 3, and I saw what they were. I just can't remember what they are now. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, man, I know I'm a day older than I was yesterday, but my brain must think I'm a lot older. But anyway, JJ. I'm going to go back and do some more additional research. Let's move on. Before we move on, as I said, there are no divisions anymore.
Yeah.
We still got to deal with the 23 schedule with divisions and that schedule, but 24 things shake out completely new. Anything before we move on from the Big Ten to the SEC?
I got nothing more for the Big Ten. I'm just excited.
Okay.
I'm excited for the new blood. I think LA is welcome. It doesn't really feel like Big Ten,
But you know what? It feels more like Big Ten than Rutgers or Maryland does. So I'll take it.
Okay. SEC, JJ,
Let's do it.
last week, they announced they didn't announce their conference schedule. They announced that they were going to be going divisionless. There would be no divisions. But they also announced that they would be playing an 8-team conference schedule rather than a 9-team conference schedule that the Big Ten is playing. What's your take on an 8-team? There's 16 teams in the SEC. Will be 16 teams, and they will be playing 8 conference games. What's your take on that?
I thought it was a little bit weak sauce. I was kind of ready for them to play 9 games because I've seen a lot of times where Alabama will play a really good opponent to start the kickoff the year, like a Boise State, a really good out of conference opponent like a Boise State or something
Playing
like that.
Texas this year.
Playing Texas, and then their other non-conference games will be like College of Charleston, and it'll be like maybe UAB, and UAB and. Not even Western Kentucky. I'm gonna go with Eastern Kentucky. That's the level of non-con outside of their initial first week game. And I just
Nick Saban's first year at Alabama, he lost to, was it
Louisiana Monroe.
Okay.
Louisiana Monroe. I remember that vividly. I loved watching that happen.
So as Nolan Richardson said, these no-name teams you play, they don't count unless you lose to them. Then they count.
Yeah, that's when they count.
Okay. All right. The SEC, they didn't come out and say this out loud, and they never would. And I do think that this is going to be their own, 24, I'm sorry, it's going to be their only year of an 18 format. But they didn't come out and say it. But my take is that they were sending a message to the broadcast, the marketing rights network, ESPN or whomever, that if you increase our contract, we'll give you a higher profile game. What's in it for the SEC if they don't get an increase in their contract, if they play another SEC school?
Well, eventually they will get an increase in the contract, I believe. I don't think there is a lot in for them to go for.
I agree, and eventually, they will play a 9-game team. Everyone was. And I say everyone, virtually everyone was shocked that they didn't go to a 9-team game format in 2024. But they did say it's a one-time thing. They might do it again in 2025, and then again, chances are they will not though. But for 2024, when Texas and Oklahoma come in, it's going to be a 8-game format, and they will announce their schedule on the 14th.
Oh, okay.
So next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, well, next week on Tuesday, we will get the schedule for the SEC. I don't think it will be as highly anticipated as the Big Ten schedule was because you got the West Coast teams in the Big Ten. Is there any really major interest with the new Oklahoma, Texas teams formats, anything like that? Only thing I can think is Texas A&M and Texas.
Yeah, that's the obvious. They didn't find out. They were the last school to know for a reason. Texas A&M.
Were the last school to know what?
About Texas's interest into the into the SEC.
Okay, gotcha.
So I think obviously that is the one that stands out. Also Texas and Arkansas, I think, former members of the Southwest Conference.
True.
I think that's a good rivalry. I think that I would expect that would be a protected rivalry. I would expect Texas to play Arkansas every single year. Oklahoma, who am I interested to see Oklahoma play?
Other than Texas.
Yeah, but they play Texas every year.
Yeah.
Other than Texas, I would like to see Oklahoma play an LSU. I just think that's a good matchup. Offense, high-flying offenses. LSU normally has one of those as well. I like that. But I'm not really looking forward to Oklahoma, Florida. What about you?
Well, Georgia, Oklahoma were originally scheduled to play this year, and they canceled that when Oklahoma announced that they was coming to the SEC next year.
Well, of course.
So they're not playing this year, but it would be interesting to see Georgia play some of the teams on the West more than just they did on the East. I like to see them playing LSU,
Georgia playing LSU,
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Texas.
Yeah.
Those are going to be some interesting games. But this is my question to you, JJ.
Yeah.
This is the $50,000 question that everybody out there wants to know your answer to this. Now that in 2024 we're going to have 16 teams in both conferences, which conference is more competitive?
In 2024, I'm going to take the SEC.
Interesting. I'm not convinced.
You're not convinced?
I'm not convinced. I think the competitiveness stepped up a huge level with USC coming in.
I think I agree with that.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, well, for me, I think it's just like when you look around the SEC, there's a lot of programs firing at like really high caliber, firing on all cylinders right now. South Carolina is recruiting incredibly well right now. They won 8 games last year, maybe was it 9? They might have won 9. South Carolina is playing really well.
They beat LSU at the end of the season and Clemson at the end of the season. Not 2 teams out of the playoff.
Absolutely did. And speaking of LSU, even being knocked out of the playoff, I don't doubt them going forward next year. I think that they're going to be, a team that really you have to really account for. I think Florida's the only school that, traditional power that I'm really not sure what their future is like. I'm not sure if Billy Napier is the coach for them. Yeah. But other than that, there's not a lot of programs that have question marks coming in.
You definitely can't knock Brian Kelly. And Auburn with Hugh Freeze, I think, is a great coach.
That isn't. I think he's a great coach, but that is another question mark for me. Just
for
based
this year.
Yeah, the cover.
But he has torn up the transfer portal. I think he was like number 2 in the transfer portal, something like that. LSU has as well, and LSU was already super powerful. But JJ, we talked about the SEC and the Big Ten, and we don't want to keep people too long. The Big 12 been making news left and right.
Yes, they have.
Deion Sanders been talking about the Big 12. What's going on? Colorado.
What's going on with Colorado? Colorado might not be long for the Pac-12. That's what Deion Sanders that's not what Deion Sanders has been saying. But after interviews from their athletic director, in which they said that they would like to remain in the Pac-12, but they're going to do what's best for Colorado, and if that's joining the Big 12, that's something that they're going to consider.
The Pac-12 is yet to get that media rights deal, and if that deal is not competitive with the Pac-12, Colorado will be gone, in my opinion.
With the Big 12?
The Big 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, with the Big 12. The Big 12.
Yeah.
If it's not competitive, if the Pac-12 media right deal is not competitive with the Big 12 media rights deal, I think Colorado will be gone. That's just my personal opinion. But this is the question: if Colorado go, will others follow?
Well, no, we already talked about how last week about how they had a history with the Big 12 more so than any other school. So they might. But I think that them leaving would destabilize the Pac-12. I'm not sure if other schools will follow, but I think it really does come down to money.
Well, let me ask you this question: if you Arizona, and USC is gone, UCLA is gone, Colorado is gone, they're talking about Oregon and Washington might be going to the Big Ten. If you Arizona, would you hang around with the Pac-12?
It would depend. I mean, first for one, you'd have to pay up. Like they'd have to present like a good offer, and that might be to the disadvantage of schools like Oregon State and Washington State. It might not be an equal splits deal. It might be a deal in which Arizona gets more money, but I would rather align myself with the West Coast, with markets like Portland, Seattle, potentially San Diego, which is a top 10 market. You get the Southern California market. That's a big one. I think I'd rather align myself with that than like Lubbock, Texas, Manhattan, Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas,
Houston, Texas, Cincinnati,
Ames,
Ohio.
Yeah, those are the new. Those are the new guys.
Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, how established are their programs? Is any of those established as in Oregon? Has anyone played for a championship? No.
You know what?
I mean, TCU did. Dallas or Fort Worth. I'll give them that. But
what has the Pac-12 done?
I mean,
Oregon has played in one. UCLA a decade ago. We can agree to disagree, but if I'm Arizona, I'm more inclined to take something that's a little bit more stable. I think the Pac-12 is way unstable right now. But that's it. JJ.
Yes, sir.
What you got?
We're gonna get out of here. All I got is
Hude, and
Whoopig Sui.
see you next time.
Adios.